Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. I'm really glad you could join us today because we're getting into something quite exciting. We're looking at the 10th issue of Alperen's biweekly work journal, Thinking in Public. It's packed with some really interesting stuff on AI. So our mission today, we want to explore the latest in AI voice assistants. We're going to focus particularly on Elevenlabs' new platform, 11.ai, and understand, why this whole area is growing so fast. Plus, the really useful part, we'll pull out the practical guide from the journal on how you can actually build your own personal AI assistant. And just to be clear, this isn't just about cool gadgets. These are becoming real tools that could genuinely help you with your work, make things easier. Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. Voice assistants. A lot of us probably still think of them as, asking for the weather or setting a timer. But it feels like things have moved on quite a bit. How have they evolved beyond just answering basic questions?
That's a really key point. We're definitely in a new phase now. It's not just about getting information anymore. It's about using voice commands to get real work done. These new assistants are built to sort of connect with the tools you already use. And importantly, they can take action. 11.ai from Elevenlabs is a perfect example. It works with things like Slack, Google Calendar, even Perplexity for research. So you don't just ask what's on your calendar. You can tell it, hey, schedule this meeting or send this Slack message. And, well, it does it. It's becoming much more proactive.
That really does sound like a big step up. So what's the tech underneath making that happen, letting them actually do things?
Yeah, what's really fascinating here is the core technology. It's something called MCP, Model Context Protocol. It was developed by Anthropic, and it's really becoming a kind of standard.
MCP.
Think of it like a common language, or maybe a secure bridge. It lets different AI systems talk to each other and, crucially, interact with your data safely and flexibly. And the fact that the big players, Meta, Google, OpenAI, they're starting to adopt it, that really signals how important it is. So it's turning these assistants from fun toys into genuinely useful work helpers. They understand context. They can act across different apps.
And it's not just the big tech companies noticing this shift. It seems like the wider market is getting interested too. I saw Y Combinator, which is, pretty influential.
Huge, yeah.
They've added voice AI to their request for startups list for summer 2025. What does that kind of investor focus mean for where voice AI is headed?
Oh, it means we're about to see an explosion, a real surge in this area. When YC puts something on their RFS list, it's basically a massive signal to entrepreneurs. Build things here.
Right.
It means they see huge potential. They want to fund companies. So yes, we're talking about Elevenlabs now, but this tells us to expect a whole wave of new startups. They'll all have different takes, different tools. It's going to get very busy, very dynamic in the voice AI space.
That's exciting to think about, all the new possibilities. But for someone listening, maybe thinking, okay, sounds great, but can I actually do this? Does the journal give us a practical starting point? How do you build one yourself? It really does. And it makes it sound, surprisingly doable, actually. The starting point is pretty simple. Head over to the 11.ai platform. You'll need to sign up if you haven't, or just log in. Then you give your assistant a name, whatever you like, and choose a voice. The journal specifically suggests picking the perfect for 11.ai option. Apparently it works best with their system. So yeah, the initial setup seems quite straightforward.
It really is pretty smooth.
So once you've got your assistant named and voiced, the next step is connecting it to your digital life. And Elevenlabs gives you 6 default apps to start with right away.
Yeah, okay, which ones?
Let's see, it's Google Calendar, Hacker News for tech news summaries, Linear for project management, Notion.
Notion, okay, useful. Yeah, for notes and databases, then Perplexity for web searches, and Slack for messaging. So straight out of the box, it can do things like, send a Slack message, add something to your calendar, look something up online via Perplexity, or even interact with your Notion pages. It starts doing things immediately.
Those 6 cover quite a bit, but the journal suggests the real power comes when you go beyond those using something called Zapier MCP. Can you kind of explain how that works? It sounds like it really opens things up.
Exactly. That's where it gets really interesting and customizable. Zapier MCP is basically like building your own custom connection point. You set up what they call a new MCP server inside Zapier. And the amazing thing about Zapier is, it connects to over 8,000 apps.
Wow, 8,000.
Yeah. So think Gmail, Google Sheets, Drive, Airtable, Outlook, HubSpot, Jira, Google Analytics, pretty much anything used for work. The idea is you link the apps you want, and then you add the specific actions or tools from those apps that you want your voice assistant to be able to use. You build your own custom menu, essentially. Okay, so you're tailoring it exactly to your workflow.
Precisely. The journal gives the exact steps, but the core concept is you're not limited to the defaults. You can make it connect to almost anything.
Right. And once you've built that custom server in Zapier, telling it which apps and actions to include, the next part is linking it back to your 11.ai assistant. And it's surprisingly not that complex. You basically just copy the unique server URL that Zapier gives you for your MCP server.
Okay.
Then you pop back over to 11.ai into your assistant settings. There's a section called Custom MCP Servers. You add a new one there, give it a name, a description, so you know what it is. For server type, you choose Streamable HTTP. That's just the techie bit about how they talk to each other. Then you paste in that URL you copied from Zapier.
Simple enough.
Yeah, and the fields for secret token and HTTP header, you can just leave those blank for this setup. Now for tool approval mode, the recommendation, and I'd agree with this, is to set it to always ask. Well, just because all this tech is so new, it's probably wise to have that extra step where you confirm you want the assistant to actually perform the action, at least for now. A bit of a safety net.
Makes sense.
Then you just tick the box saying, I trust this server, assuming you built it yourself, you do, and click Add Server. And the very last thing is just to make sure you go back into the main agent settings in 11.ai, select the Zapier server you just added, and hit Save. Then it's active.
Fantastic. So you've essentially built this custom brain for your voice assistant connected to all your tools. Thinking about people actually trying this out, what are the important things to keep in mind? Any potential pitfalls with this new tech?
Definitely. The absolute key thing to remember is that all this voice AI stuff, and especially MCP integrations, it's all very, very new. It's bleeding edge. So you should absolutely expect bugs. Things might not work perfectly first time or sometimes at all.
Right. Be prepared for some frustration, maybe.
Exactly. See it as experimenting. The value right now is partly just learning how it works, understanding its potential and its current rough edges. Getting in early has its benefits, even with the bumps.
And tied to that newness, the journal mentions security. It noted some security issues with MCP tech have been reported, though the author hadn't run into them personally. That really highlights the need for caution when you're hooking up all your apps, doesn't it?
Absolutely critical. Security has to be top of mind. You are granting an AI access to potentially sensitive information across different platforms. While MCP is designed with security considerations, the technology is still evolving. So users need to be really aware of the permissions they grant. Understand that you're taking on some personal risk. It's like exploring any new territory. You need to be careful. And maybe a practical tip for when things don't work, especially with Zapier MCP connections. Sometimes the assistant just fails to do what you asked. Often, it's because the way the AI phrased the request wasn't quite what the connected app expected.
Like a translation error almost.
Kind of, yeah. The journal had an example where asking for the last email with marketing failed. The agent actually sent the query as marketing inbox, but the tool just needed marketing. A small difference, but it broke the action.
So how do you fix that?
Well, often you can see the code or the command the assistant tried to use on the screen. You might spot the error there. Or, here's a neat trick. Take a screenshot of the error, or copy the code snippet, and feed it into another AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude, and ask it how to fix the query for Zapier, using AI to debug AI.
That's clever, using the tools to fix themselves. Okay, and one last point the journal brought up was about data organization. Why does keeping things tidy in apps like Notion or Airtable matter for using these AI assistants later on?
Yeah, it's about future-proofing, really. Right now, the AI might be able to muddle through, even if your data is a bit messy. But as these assistants get more powerful and you want them to do more complex things like summarizing across multiple nodes or finding very specific data points, their effectiveness is going to depend hugely on how well structured your information is. Clean data, consistent tags, organized databases, it all helps the AI work reliably and accurately.
So good digital habits pay off even more now.
Exactly. It's not strictly required today for basic stuff, maybe, but investing a little time in organizing your digital workspace now will make these tools far more powerful for you down the road. You'll avoid hitting frustrating limits later. And, all this really makes you think, as these assistants get smarter and more integrated, what does that actually mean for how we work? How will it change our relationship with information, with tasks? Will it genuinely make us more productive, free us up? Or will it create new kinds of challenges, new dependencies? It's a really fundamental shift happening.
It really is. What a fascinating exploration we've had. We started with understanding this big shift in voice AI moving from just answering questions to actually doing things. Then we walked through the practical steps from the journal, showing how you can actually build your own assistant using 11.ai and Zapier MCP. And we finished by looking at those crucial things to keep in mind: the newness, the security aspects, troubleshooting, and why keeping your digital house in order matters. It's clear this is evolving incredibly fast. Thank you so much for joining us today for this deep dive. It's been incredibly insightful.
My pleasure. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening to ponder. How could you start experimenting with this, even in a small way? Think about one task, maybe something repetitive, in your own workflow. Could a voice assistant potentially automate that for you? And looking bigger picture, as these tools become more woven into our lives, what new opportunities do you see? And maybe what new challenges might pop up that we haven't even thought of yet? The way we interact with technology is definitely changing.